Welcome back, everyone, to another explainer. If you've been scrolling through phone recommendations lately, you have almost certainly seen the flashy marketing for the Redmi 13 5G. It's being touted everywhere as the ultimate budget 5G upgrade, especially for those looking to stay under that $15,000 mark. But as we know, spec sheets and marketing banners only tell half the story. So today, we're going to cut right through the hype and look at the reality. We're going to break down the objective data, the actual hardware, and real user experiences to figure out if this device genuinely deserves a spot in your pocket. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll meet the Redmi 13 5G, check out its premium design and display, pop the hood to look at performance and battery life, break down that massive 108-megapixel camera experience, and finally, wrap things up with our final verdict. All right, part 1. Meet the Redmi 13 5G, billed as a 5G star on a budget. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what Xiaomi is going for here. They are specifically targeting budget-conscious buyers who absolutely don't want to compromise on a premium aesthetic. I mean, just look at this striking orchid pink colorway. It's bold, and it clearly wants to punch way above its weight class. On paper, it's a pretty substantial device. It measures 168.6 by 76.28 by 8.3 millimeters and weighs in at 205 grams. Basically, it has the visual footprint of a much more expensive flagship phone. But how does that actually translate when you hold it? That brings us to section 2, premium design and display, or as I like to call it, the premium illusion. Evaluating how these specs feel in the real world, the marketing loves to highlight this segment's only dual-glass body. And hey, to be fair, they aren't lying. You actually get a really beautiful, durable Corning Gorilla Glass 3 on the front and a strengthened glass panel on the rear, which is fantastic for this price point. However, we do need to clear up a common myth right now. While the front and back are glass, the frame sitting in the middle holding it all together is actually plastic, not metal. It feels premium, absolutely, but just keep in mind you aren't getting a full metal and glass sandwich here. So the crucial point here is about the actual display technology. If you look at various retailer listings online, you might see some confusing or even outright incorrect implications that this phone features an AMOLED screen. Let's set the record straight. This massive 6.79-inch Full HD Plus display is a solid IPS LCD panel. It offers a really great resolution of 1080 by 2460, but it is not AMOLED. You just won't get those infinitely deep blacks, which is definitely an important distinction if you're an absolute display purist. But look, while it might not be AMOLED, this screen still has some major tricks up its sleeve. It features a 120 Hz adaptive sync refresh rate. That means scrolling through your social media feeds or swiping between apps is going to feel absolutely buttery smooth. It actually dynamically shifts between 30, 48, 60, 90, and 120 Hz to save power when you don't need max performance. It also boasts a super snappy 240 Hz touch sampling rate and hits 550 nits in high brightness mode, making it pretty usable even when you're outdoors. Moving beyond just the raw screen specs, the Redmi 13 5G packs in some genuinely surprising durability and practical extras. It's got an IP53 rating, meaning it can handle light splashes and dust. It even features a wet touch display, which, let's be honest, is perfectly suited for when you're caught in a sudden light rain shower or if you just happen to have incredibly sweaty hands during an intense texting session. Furthermore, Xiaomi kept all the fan favorites: a classic 3.5mm headphone jack, a very reliable side-mounted fingerprint sensor, and the incredibly handy IR blaster, which effectively turns your phone into a universal remote for your TV or AC. So cool! Let's shift gears to section 3. Performance and battery life. Under the hood. As we break down the specs here, I want you to actively consider your own daily user habits. Powering the Redmi 13 5G is the India debut of the Snapdragon 4 Gen 2 AE chipset. This is built on a highly efficient 4nm process. We're looking at 2 Cortex-A78 cores at 2.3 GHz and 6 Cortex-A55 cores at 2.0 GHz. You compare this with either 6 or 8 GB of RAM alongside 128 GB of UFS 2.2 internal storage. What's really great is you can actually expand that storage up to a massive 1 TB via a hybrid SIM slot. The whole system runs on Android 14, layered with Xiaomi's new HyperOS. But okay, time for a quick reality check here, especially for any gamers tuning in. While that 4nm chip is incredibly efficient, it is undeniably a budget-tier processor. For your everyday tasks, making calls, browsing the web, aggressively refreshing social media, and light multitasking, it's going to be perfectly fine. It'll feel nice and snappy. But if you are hoping to push heavy, graphically intense mobile games at max settings, yeah, this phone is going to struggle. It just isn't built for that level of sustained, heavy performance. Let's move to our next point and see how this builds into what might just be the phone's greatest strength, its endurance. Because that chipset is so power efficient, this massive 50-30 milliamp hour battery is a true powerhouse. Real-world testing shows this device comfortably lasts a full day of moderate use, and it can even stretch to a day and a half for lighter users. And when you do finally run out of juice, the included 33W fast charger will get you back to roughly 50% in just about 30 minutes.
All right, section 4, the 108 MP camera experience. Let's break down those megapixels.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how they've targeted the photographer in you. We always see massive megapixel numbers thrown around, but what does that mean practically? Well, this rear camera array is incredibly striking, especially with that ring flash. The main shooter is a whopping 108 megapixel f1.75 sensor. It offers a 3x in-sensor zoom, portrait mode, night mode, and HDR. And tucked over on the front, right into the display, is a 13 megapixel selfie camera. But breaking down the camera reality reveals a clear mix of hits and misses. Let's start with the hits. In good daylight, that 108 megapixel sensor produces excellent, super sharp photos. And the 3x in-sensor zoom actually performs quite well without losing too much detail. However, the misses are pretty notable. Video recording is strictly capped at 180p at 30 frames per second on both the front and back, so absolutely no 4K recording here. Furthermore, that secondary lens on the back, honestly, it's essentially just a filler 2-megapixel depth sensor. You don't get an ultra-wide lens, and once the sun goes down, the low-light performance is strictly average. Finally, section 5, the final verdict. Let's synthesize some user reviews. Before you make any purchasing decisions, it is absolutely vital to see how everyday users are receiving this device. When we synthesize the user feedback out there, we find a highly divided camp. On one hand, buyers are praising the phone as a really smart, value-for-money device. They love the large 128GB base storage and that big, smooth display. But on the other hand, reports are mixed regarding performance and endurance. While some find it incredibly fast with a battery that lasts forever, other users report frustrating occasional lag and fast-draining battery units. It seems that your experience heavily depends on just how hard you push the hardware. And, of course, context is everything. The street price for the base 6 gigs RAM 128GB storage variant sits comfortably between 13,000 and 16,000 rupees in India, depending on current retailer offers. At this highly accessible tier, getting genuine dual 5G support packaged in this design is undeniably competitive. So, let's wrap all of this up into one clean visual summary. The strengths are super clear. You get a large, smooth 120Hz display, a massive 50-30 mAh battery with fast charging, solid daylight photography from that 108 megapixel sensor, and fantastic practical features like expandable storage, an IR blaster, and clean dual 5G support. But those weaknesses are just as prominent. It's an IPS LCD, not AMOLED. Video is strictly capped at 1080p, that secondary rear lens adds very little value, heavy gamers will definitely find the performance lacking, and despite the premium glass front and back, the middle frame itself is plastic. And that brings us to our ultimate takeaway from this explainer. When looking at devices in this price bracket, you have to weigh your own priorities. If you're a serious mobile gamer or a budding videographer who desperately needs 4K, this isn't the phone for you. But if you want a big screen for scrolling, a battery that won't die on your commute, and a premium look without the premium price tag, it's a solid contender. Which leaves us with this question. Does a budget phone need to be perfect across the board, or does it just need to be perfect for your specific daily needs? Think about what really matters in your day-to-day life the next time you're looking at a spec sheet. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.